All right, well, here we go. Welcome. Molly, you okay over there? You awake? All right, you come to school to sleep. All right, we're a little sparse out here. I do see some people online, so that's good. Here we go. Welcome today. How was our weekend? Mine was pretty decent. Mine was decent. Got my son came home from college, so he'll be hanging out for a little while. We'll see. He's working a lot with his internship, so we'll see how long we see him. All that, and so, but it was a good weekend. Definitely was a good weekend. Any highlights? Anyone go anywhere that want to share? Gavin, what do you got, man?
I went down to Cannon Falls this past weekend and camped on Lake Billsby.
Okay, all right. Did you go kayaking at all on the?
I didn't do anything on the lake.
Okay. All right.
I was right next to the lake.
Okay.
And even though I put on sunscreen, I still ended up getting sunburnt.
There we go. There we go. Some would just say that's a good base. It's a good start. Good start. All right. Well, my son, his internship requires him to be outside, and I can definitely tell he did not. He did not put sunscreen on himself, and so, may have did it at the beginning of the day, but by the end of the day, he didn't reapply. So, is what is. All right. So here we go. This is our last full week of school. Amazing, huh? All right. It's coming rapidly to a conclusion. So like I sent out that update saying that 3.2 is coming to a conclusion. And so in terms of previews, we still have one more summative out there. So this attempts to end segregation in the South, that's a summative. So that's our summative number 3. So you have a fourth one still out there. So be aware of that when it pops up. Wednesday, June 2nd is your deadline. So let's get any missing work in by Wednesday, June 2nd. If you're my seniors, that would have been June 1st. That's the last possible day for them. And that if they don't, that could impact graduation and stuff like that. So we don't have to worry about that yet. All right. So with that, again, if you have questions, concerns about anything that's missing, please let me know. All right. And so that means we will continue with our study of the civil rights. And we have been looking at attempts to end segregation in the South. And I do want today take a moment and look at the March on Selma. And so, or March to Selma. And so maybe you have looked at that as one. John Lewis, who is the gentleman in the overcoat here, the light overcoat, he kind of looks at the march from Selma to Montgomery as kind of like their salt march. And that's referencing Gandhi's march to the sea for India's independence from Great Britain. And so here we've got something very, very similar, a nonviolent march here. Want to watch a little video clip here. And what it is also going to highlight the role of media here in the civil rights movement, but then also the march to Selma was focusing on the issue of voting. And voting is a big one then, as well as we know today. So here we go. I've got a little video clip here, so give me a moment here, and we'll watch that. So let me... You've seen the movie Selma. This is spotlighted in it. And this is going to be, this particular scene is from what is known as Bloody Sunday, which is the first attempt. There will be 3 attempts to march to Selma.
March 7th, 1965. Would you please take me through that terrible day in Selma?
That Sunday afternoon, we lined up in twos to walk in a peaceful, nonviolent fashion from Selma to Montgomery.
We're marching today to dramatize to the nation, dramatize to the world, that hundreds and thousands of Negro citizens of Alabama, but particularly here in the Black Belt area, denied the right to vote. We intend to march to Montgomery to present certain grievances to Governor George C. Wallace.
I was wearing a backpack. In this backpack, I had 2 books. I had an apple and I had an orange, a toothpaste and toothbrush. I thought we were going to be arrested and that we were going to go to jail. We came to the highest point on the bridge. Down below, we saw a sea of blue. Alabama State Troopers. The sheriff was named Jim Clark. He was a very big man and had a lapel button that said never. You say, this is an unlawful march. We will not be allowed to continue. I give you 3 minutes to disperse and return to your church. And Jose Williams from Dr. King's organization spoke up and said, give us a moment to kneel and pray. And the major said, troopers advance.
Advance toward the gate. See that they disperse.
The images captured that day in Selma are seared onto our national consciousness. And as we look at them today, it seems unbelievable that the African-American right to vote could have posed such a profound threat as to incite this kind of violence.
The vote is the most powerful instrument, most powerful nonviolent tool in a democratic society.
All right, so when we look at that event here that becomes known as Bloody Sunday, it's the quest for the right to vote. So up to this point, 1965, all right, so you're looking at 1965, there has been some big gains in civil rights up to 1965. You had education with Brown v. Board of Education and other events leading afterwards. So that barrier has been struck. Transportation has been dealt a blow. So we can see that there have been some gains in civil rights in those aspects, but here voting. Voting's a big one. Voting is where we're determining who our leaders is, but also if you can register to vote, you also get on juries. And so that's important piece there as well. So what allowed, John Lewis makes a point at the end, but what really allows for them to be successful here? I mean, eventually they are going to make it to Selma on the 3rd try, but ultimately, what is allowing them to be successful? These protesters. Can we speculate? Why are they successful? Okay, we got someone saying media reporting on the events. Yes, the media is reporting on the events. And people in the United States, but also internationally, but more importantly, people in the United States are starting to be won over. So we're looking at, by 1965, we can say the middle class in the United States is being won over. If you can win the middle class in the United States, or you get them to be on your side, That's going to be huge. That's going to be huge. So the media, in this case, is a key ally in the civil rights movement. But that's part of it. That's part of it. But I think John Lewis brings up a good point as well. What kind of violence are the protesters engaging in? Are the protesters doing the violence? Are the protesters being violent? No, they're not. The protesters aren't being violent. It is the establishment that they're trying to take on is being violent. So John Lewis is talking about nonviolence. And John Lewis had been a long-time member, U.S. House member from Georgia. He had just passed away. So after his involvement in the civil rights movement, eventually he goes into politics here. So nonviolence approach, their persistence. But in the end, are they going to get really the right to vote, or that right to vote to be reaffirmed? Because one would argue 15th Amendment gives African-American males the right to vote. 19th Amendment extends it to women, African-American women. But the Voting Rights Act and the 24th Amendment comes out of this popular protest. So ultimately, they get the government also. So this is huge. This is a success piece here. Definitely. Now, the Voting Rights Act and voting access, all that is under scrutiny as a result of, one could say, the past few election cycles we've had in the United States. And so, like I've talked about with my seniors, in that when we look at American democracy, we look at democracy around the world here, though, there has been, it looks like, efforts to challenge the democratic process. So we'll see how this plays out in our next election that comes up next year. So we'll see how that goes. All right. So with that being said, voting rights is a big element. Once that happens, it doesn't mean civil rights totally stops. Civil rights is always in a state of movement, and it has its ebbs and flows to it. So we'll see how that plays out now in the next few years as well. All right, so with that, your task for today is to complete this assignment, the attempts to end segregation in the South. That is what is due today. All right, so you don't want to get yourself further behind, because we really don't have a lot of time here. The window for getting stuff done is smaller and smaller. All right, so this is due today. So when you get done with it, make sure you submit it, please. If you have questions about the formatting of it, let me know. Remember, we're just not looking for straight up facts here. You are a reporter, and this is your notebook here with your thoughts about the event, the importance of the event, what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels like, all that. And you need to have some visuals to go with that as well. Okay? Questions, comments, concerns with that? So I'm going to give you about an hour here to wrap it up, and we will definitely go from there. Okay. Remember, we're looking for at least 3 here. Three, and they got to come from different categories, and then pick a topic out of those categories. Okay. I'll cut you loose. Those at home, stay on, ask questions, or exit, and do a fantastic job to get this done.